start with Coach Harsin. We'll open it up to questions, and we're going to cut this off at 1:30.
It's never gone that long anyway.
It has a couple of times.
Okay. Well, I said it Saturday night or Sunday morning, either way. It was a good win. Really proud of our guys coming back. Sometimes when you haven't beat a team for a couple years, you need to get over that hurdle. And I think there might have been some psychological out there in the first half of playing that team over the last couple years, and then to come back and win it. You know, I think that says a lot about the team and maybe even where we are, you know, as far as facing that opponent. So really proud of those guys to get through that. It was a mindset, I think, in the second half of coming out there and just executing, playing. Obviously, special teams played a huge role in us getting some momentum. And congratulations to Chris Santini, got the Mountain West Player of the Week, deservedly so. But every week we're this, 1-0 mindset, simple as that. It was no different last week. We're on to Wyoming now, 1-0. How do we do that? How do we beat this team? How do we find a way to get better than we were last week? How do we find ways to start faster, be more consistent? That's the challenge going into this week. Players of the game on defense was Ben Weaver. He had some big third down plays and some stops in the run game. Was very effective. On offense was Jay Ajayi. Shane and Thomas, both those guys had big games for us, third down catches. Special teams, obvious, Chris Santini. O-lineman of the game was Travis Averill. D-lineman, Gabe Perez, with a shout-out to Armand Nance, who played very well in that game and did some extreme dancing in between timeouts. If you guys saw that or not, he was having fun. Got me going. So those guys were the players of the game. As far as Wyoming, the one thing, I don't know Coach Bowl. I've met him in the spring, but I know of him and know what his teams have done, how successful he's been. So you know that you're going to get a very well-coached team. From what I've seen, they play extremely hard, and they play for 4 quarters from the games I've watched. Offensively, like we saw last week, pro-style, downhill run game, and their freshman tailback, Brian Hill, that guy especially, he had some big games. Fresno was probably his biggest. They ran the ball very well in that game. But over the last 3 games, he's rushed for 524 yards on 76 carries, so almost 7 yards per carry. So he's been very efficient and effective. Quarterback, is solid. He's a young guy. Redshirt senior. He's been solid for him. For the most part, I think when those guys have played well, he's played well. I think the one thing they said, from their offensive philosophy, is be able to maintain possession of the ball, create long scoring drives. I mean, that's in their media guide, and that's what they've said and what they want to try to do on the offensive side, which I've seen his teams do that. Watched him when they played Kansas State when he was at North Dakota State and went in there and won that game. So they've done those things and done very well. Defensively, solid, number 6 in pass defense in the conference, 4th in red zone. 4-3 scheme, play extremely hard. I've watched more of their defense than I have offense, but they get 11 guys to the ball. Number 55, their D-end, very good player, plays extremely hard throughout the entire play, a guy that we're going to have to definitely find ways to get different matchups on him. Number 43, Devin Harris, leads the team in tackles. That's their will linebacker. And their secondary is very good. They come up and challenge you. They'll get in your face. They're not afraid to do that. That's just part of their package. So from what I've seen, not to get into a whole bunch of personnel, I mean, I've seen 3-4 games already where these guys, they play very, very hard, and they play consistent throughout the game. And bottom line is, we're going to have to do that ourselves. We've got to show up. We have to play. It's going to be 4 quarters. We've got to play a lot better than we have in the first halves of the last 2 games. We know that, and we've got to find ways to create turnovers, and probably in this game we lost the turnover battle and we won the game. That's really the only game. Now if you go back and you take the fake punt, we were probably even on the turnover battle if you add that in there. So, but you're not going to win too many games losing the turnover battle. So we have to do a better job there offensively and then create more on defense. So 1-0 this week is the theme. That's the challenge. We've got to travel there. Probably going to be in similar weather than we were the other night. And we've got to get prepared for that. So with that, open up for questions.
Kind of commented on Wyoming's style of play. Curious your thoughts on kind of the ebbs and flows of college football. For a while there, it was all about you gain a competitive advantage by going fast, and now they're trying to create one by maybe going a little slower and taking their time.
Yeah, I don't. The one thing about styles and all that, I mean, whatever style fits you, that's really what it is. I think there's a lot of teams that try to copy what Oregon has done, and I've watched Oregon for 5 years, and I've watched what they've done. I think the only team that can do Oregon is Oregon. That's their style. And whether you huddle or no huddle, I mean, you start looking at number of plays. There was this mythical number, everybody in the no huddle world, and it's kind of funny, hey, we're going to get 80 plays a game. What does that mean? I mean, it can be 80 bad plays a game. Good for you. We want to have effective plays. We want to be efficient with the plays we run. We want to have success. So whatever your style is, we huddled for a lot of years here. We still do at times. We no huddle. We just feel like that fits what we want to do and how we want to do it. Still gives us the variety in our offense that we want. So I think it's their style, and they do a good job with it. They got checks at the line. Quarterback understands them, and they're getting into successful plays. That's the bottom line.
Your offense kind of sleepwalked through the first part of the first half. With a couple of minutes to go in the half, you called that timeout when it was 20-3, and said, well, we're going to get the ball back. Did that send a message to those guys? Because they really seemed to pick it up from that point.
Well, I didn't really want to call the timeout. We were in between changing plays, and we just needed a minute. There was a couple thoughts and ideas going on there. Obviously, that was an important part of the game for us. That we don't want to go out there and squander that opportunity. So a few play ideas came in. We just needed a minute, so called the timeout. And we needed to go out there with the best stuff. Run our best stuff and make sure everybody's on the same page. And that's really what it was. But the guys responded. They knew, the way the game was going, that we need to go out there and get points on the board. We need to somehow find a way going into half to make this 10-20 coming out of half. Our talk was it's going to be 17-20. We're going to hold, and it's going to be 24-20. We're going to win the game. It didn't go like that coming out the second half, but we just, a little bit like New Mexico, we kind of got in that just chipping away, and we needed something big to happen. Chris Santini was that big thing that happened, and then momentum changed. And it's funny because this game is so much about scheme and players and all those things. It's so much about momentum in a game. It really is. And you just watch teams when they got it, they can come back and play at a high level, and when the other team doesn't, things flipped in that game. We had a couple turnovers. They had the momentum. We're on our heels. Everybody's wondering what's going on. All of a sudden, we got it back, and the game changed.
You mentioned the weather. It's supposed to be cold there, but also windy, which is a little different factor.
Yep.
And having to do it away from home where you're not as comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Playing it the other day, how much does that affect the game, and how much of a concern is that this week going to maybe harsher conditions?
Yeah, it definitely affects the game. It affects the quarterbacks. When it's cold like that, the balls get slick. It's harder to handle, and a little bit harder to throw in. Now you add the factor of the wind in there, which you really didn't have any wind in our game. But yeah, you add the wind in there, and you're trying to throw maybe a ball you don't grip as well into the wind. It makes it more difficult. As far as where our guys handled it, we tried to do things to keep warm and be smart about it and all that, so they can still go out there and play. But it is what it is. I mean, that's going to be part of it. I don't know how strong the wind will be. I've been in that stadium before when it's been somewhat windy, but not that cold. We haven't played this late against Wyoming, so we'll just have to simulate as best we can. We can't really do anything about the wind. We've been in the cold. We'll still practice outside, and when we get there, we're going to have to definitely factor in those conditions on their field if that's the case. Yeah. It's to be honest, when we kind of talk about it, it's gone quick. It feels like that. I think the season's gone quickly. It doesn't always feel that way. I just, especially having a, new staff and not being new, but being new, being back and all that. Every single week there's just so much to do. There's always, obviously from the game, you come back and you're just like, you got to fix this, you got to fix that, you got to work on this. We didn't practice that well. And, we're always trying to go back, and I'm always looking at, did the structure of the week allow us to be successful in that game? Or what did we take out? What hurt us? What do we have to add back in? What do we got to emphasize? So there's just constant tweaking, throughout and just trying to figure it out. And, we found a few things in there. It's like, boom, bottom line, that's what we're doing. And there's still quite a few things in there. It's just, we're still working on. And I think the players are the same way. But, I'm happy where our coaching staff and players are at, as far as just, the weekly plan, the weekly process. We understand it. We've gotten better at it. They're still enjoying it. It hasn't gotten to a point now where it's, everyone's just rolling their eyes. And it can be like that at some places. It can be like that this time of year. And I think the thing that's probably that's made that the most successful, or why that's been successful, I should say, is, we put ourselves in a position to play for something. We know that. And if we take care of business, we have an opportunity to actually go out there and achieve our goal. We still have to prove that. And, the last couple games, it's kind of shown we've done some good things. We've been able to win the games, but we still have a lot of things to work on. You can look at that just by watching the game. So the buy-in is in the process, and that we have a set of standards. Not that we just won the game. We're happy about that. That is the ultimate goal. But when we come back here on Sundays, it's like, all right, we put stats up there, we put things up there we talked about in the beginning of the year, and we haven't reached that yet. And that's what the standard is. So the product is winning. The standard is we still have a long ways to go. And I think that's the motivating factor, and why I like where we're at, and why I think, each week guys come into work and, try to get better, because we have to. We're just not there yet.
With Wyoming, the 3 teams that you played in the month of November have all been primarily run first teams with some really good running backs. Talk about Hill, what style he is, and is it different when you have different style running backs each week to go against?
It's different. As far as how they run the football, I think what we saw last week is pretty similar. The pro style. We did the same thing in the game. We lined up and got in 2 backs and ran power, against San Diego State. It wasn't anything special. It wasn't anything they didn't expect. We just did it, and we did it better. We executed it. This, Wyoming is no different. They're going to run, and they've got some wrinkles and all that. That's not like it's just old school smash mouth. They have nothing off it. They're creative, and they do a good job. But they do have a mentality like us. They want to run the football, and they've got a guy that, a freshman running back that's kind of had some breakout games, and they've proven that they can take over a game by running the ball as well. So, our goal is to slow it down. We got to find a way to slow it down. We know what they're going to do, and then their quarterback, he's got every ability to take shots, throw the ball down the field. They got good skill players and all that, so it's not like it's a one-dimensional team. But I think in the San Diego State game, against a really good running back, we did a pretty good job. You want to go out there and you'd like to shut everybody down. That kid's a good runner. He's a good back, and their old line is good. Their tight ends played well. So we did just enough to slow them down and let our offense get back into the game and find a way to win it. But be no different against Wyoming. They run it. We've got to find a way to slow it down. It's been 2 games in a row. We've been against running teams. Now it'll be 3. And at the same time, everybody else doing their jobs in the back end, so we don't get the ball thrown down on us and shots taken on us either.
I think the last 2 weeks you guys have given up 62 points in the first half, and you've given up 16 in the second half. What have you seen defensively that seems to be a difference for the first and second half the last 2 weeks?
I don't know. I could do the math, but 40 points or something? I don't know. Something like that. Yeah, we just, I think every coach in America would tell their team on a Tuesday practice, hey, the goal this week is to start fast, and that's we need to do that. I don't really have if I had an answer for that, we'd have fixed it, in this last game. It comes down to, there's going to be one-on-one tackles in there. We do need to tackle better, all right? We need to, which we do in the second half, and I think it's a little bit, and I think about this from an offensive standpoint. We're always trying to find ways to go out there and attack the defense and maybe give them different things and figure those guys out a little bit. And the same things happen to us on defense, where it takes a minute, just to kind of see how they're going to attack you. And then once you've got a better idea, you go out there and you're able to execute. And that's probably where the second halves come in. I've been really proud of our coaches for halftime adjustments. And to me, when you're in a game, that's where good coaches make a huge difference, is in the second half. They make adjustments. They know exactly what to adjust. They don't scrap everything. They just tweak this, add this, or, take this out. But it's not a wholesale change, and our coaches have done a good job of that. Seeing these last two teams and the running backs and how they've run the ball, and going into this game, that's going to happen again. We need to have a whole lot better understanding, and I'm talking defensively and then offensively too. We didn't come out on fire at all. We came out there and I don't think we tried to do anything too cute, on the offensive side. I think we came out and we ran our stuff that's been good for us, stuff that we've executed well, and we didn't execute it well. And as a player, sometimes it just takes a minute to get into the groove. Why? I don't know. That's just how it is. And it took us a minute to get into the groove. And, our jobs are throughout the week is to be ready to play and to come out and execute and to trust what we're doing and to feel confident in it. And we need to do a better job of that. I got to do a better job of that. And it kind of goes back to that question of tweaking why we started that way. I'm trying to work on that to figure that out so that doesn't happen and we can start fast. And I like to finish, but we want to start fast and put it all together.
Chad kind of took my question there. Make a note, two of their losses, Oregon and Michigan State, two pretty good football teams.
Really good.
What do you do to keep your team from getting desperate? It didn't look like you've gotten desperate, even though you're behind by 14 and 20 in the last two games. Didn't seem to be any sense of panic at that point in time in the second half. How have you kept so calm?
Well, I think it's I don't think we've had anything in the game plan, and our players would feel the same way, that's not working or that wouldn't work. If I think panic sets in when you see something and you're like, we had no idea this was coming. I think that's when panic sets in, when they hit you with something and you're like, we have never seen it, worked on it, and you've got no answers for it. We've seen everything that the teams have that we've played. We've seen all their film, and the stuff they've done to us has been what we've seen. And so I think that's probably been the biggest thing. Like, guys, it's just this. Okay, we just have to execute better, period. And that was, in the second half, that's really all I said to the team. Do your job and execute it, and do your job and execute better when you're doing your job. That's what we have to do. It wasn't any more complicated than that. So I think that's probably why it's just a matter of go out there, do your job. All right, we've seen it, we know it. We just got to make a few more plays. We'll get ourselves back into it. Panic sets in when you don't have that. But either way, we need to do that a whole lot sooner. And we know what we're seeing. We got to go out there and execute it and have that same mindset from the start, because we don't want to be in these games, where we're scratching and clawing, our way back into it. We want to start fast and stay in the game, and those have been the games where we've had a lot of success. We've been in it early, and we've been able to finish strong, and we want to definitely do that. And that's what we're working on this week. We have to have a faster start.
Two-pronged. One, talk about the final drive, the ball back with 8.5 minutes left and just a 2-point lead. Talk about the mentality of that final drive. And then also the atmosphere in the stadium in the second half with the hearty swirls moving around.
Yeah, the last drive, with 8 minutes left, you're not really trying to be real conservative on the clock. You know, when you get in that 5-minute, 4-minute mark, you think more about that. And so we were trying to go score. I mean, we wanted to make it a 2-possession game, you know, at that point. So the mindset was, hey, just keep doing what we've been doing to get ourselves back into it, go find a way to score. And as we continued that drive and got down there in the 5-4 minutes, you know, then it became a little bit more about clock, conserving, you know, trying to waste a little bit of clock. And at the end there, I thought Coach Sanford did a great job of running the ball. You know, we stayed in bounds. We had to convert a couple third downs, and then to finish off with Grant's run, you know, there at the end, you know, that was big. That really, you know, really swung the momentum in that situation. Second half, you know, it was, I mean, the people that stayed, you know, I don't know. I mean, I would say this, you know, I think we've proven that we're going to keep fighting in these games. And I know it was cold because I was down there, you know, so I don't really know what to say about that. I mean, I can't, I'm not sitting in those seats with the snow packed under my feet on the metal bleachers either. So, you know, but the crowd was great. The ones that stayed, hey, I think they saw a great game. They saw something that nobody else got to see, you know, live. You know, watch our team come back and battle and see the sideline and see the reaction, how guys are picking each other up, and just, you know, really that whole theme of team kind of coming together to do something that we haven't done in the last 2 years. You know, we hadn't beaten San Diego State, so they've had our number, and we found a way to change that. And I thought that was pretty powerful, and so we were excited at the end of the game and excited the people that stayed. And more people usually stay when the game's done around to shake hands, but they were out too. So I'm sure they said we stayed all the way through the game. It's time to go, and I appreciate that. But you know, we get back against Utah State. You know, back home. I mean, that's one of the things that we feel is important to us. I mean, our home field advantage, our fans, but the atmosphere was still very strong, and you know, people that come on campus still notice that.
Coach, Wyoming's #1 in elevation for all college football stadiums. You guys have already played at like 3 of the top 10, I think, this year.
Mm-hmm.
How have you noticed, I guess, the conditioning level of your guys late in games, and is there anything differently you do? Because I know you guys are up there too, but you're like Wyoming's like 3 times the elevation, I think, of here.
Yeah. No, you don't really do anything different. I mean, there's I've seen these, you know, those elevation masks and all that. I mean, it's about the equivalent of putting tape around your mouth, you know, and trying to breathe hard. The bottom line is, I mean, you're there for 24 hours. I mean, you show up. That's not going to have an effect. I know there's signs and all that, and, you know, it's probably more of an effect if you actually live there. All right, you have more of an effect that way. So we show up, we go to a hotel, we go to bed, we wake up, we play a game. I mean, that's really what it is. And so it's 3.5 hours. These guys are well conditioned enough to show up and play for 3.5 hours and to play hard, and then you're out of there. So I don't playing there and you know, playing in some games where elevation and people like to make that a big factor. I haven't seen that ever be a problem for, you know, our teams. We go in there and play. Now the weather and the wind, that's a different deal. You know, those are real factors in there. But elevation, I mean, that really doesn't have nothing to do with it for the 3.5 hours we're there.
So, Jeremy Wane, Brian Douglas, Dylan Lucart, Matt Bozen, any update on any of those guys, or is there anybody I'm missing that hasn't been playing?
No, and Jeremy's been out there. You know, he's got it.
He didn't play last week according to the book. But
No, he's you know, but he's been out there practicing and all that. Other than what I've told you every week, and we'll see where he's at this week. You know, obviously Chance and Corey, both those guys have been playing quite a bit, and Chance getting in the mix, you know, in that safety position has helped. Dylan, hope we get him back this week. You know, we'll know more today when we have our staff meeting and talk about, you know, where he's at. We hope we get him back. Who are the other two?
Bozen and Douglas.
Yeah, Brian's out there. You know, he's been practicing and all that, so he's out there. It's just a matter of getting him in the game. And then Bosen, you know, we'll see. He probably will not be in this game as well. And I really don't know when he's going to be back yet.
Can we say that's disciplinary or something?
Yeah, it's definitely something from our end of things that we're handling, and you know, we'll get him back when we can get him back.
Thanks, guys.
Good? All right.